Why do you think it's going to sell for that? Well, because I looked at blah, blah, blah. Like, the Zestimate is not a good answer. Sometimes that can be great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's one piece of information. I think to get a lender really comfortable, you have to really establish it. You've done the work.
James, thank you for joining me on our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host over here, Matt Kamp with DealMachine, Head of Partnerships. And on these, we really like to shine an industry spotlight on experts like yourself, hear your inspiring stories and see how you see the real estate world evolving. So today, really excited to welcome on James Gaskin. I know you're the Head of Corporate and Business Development Initiatives over at Renovo Financial, which essentially you lead expansion of the retail lending business, manage the biz dev and strategic partnerships, and then focus on your sales and sales support team culture. And really, I know your guys' ultimate goal is to really build Renovo into that number one private lender to real estate investors in the U.S. So I'm really excited to have you on. Thanks, James. Appreciate the time, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is really exciting. It's been awesome to get to know you guys and see what you're up to, over the last year or so, and was honored to be asked to join you today. So super excited to do it.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about, really your own personal journey in this industry? Like, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. I played basketball in college, and my mom was a real estate developer growing up, and I just kind of always, when I went to school, I was just kind of always thought, I'd be in real estate some way or shape or form, and really thought that would be on the development side, and came out of school, kind of right. I went to grad school as well and got an MBA. And when I was coming out of there, really ready to hit the ground, it was 2008, and not the best time to be launching a career in real estate. But jumped in and worked more on the analyst side for multifamily developers, and kind of got my feet wet there. And anyway, ended up kind of migrating into a role with what was kind of a startup company that was lending money to real estate investors based out of Austin, and was very small, raising private capital and turning around and lending that out, really kind of matching individual investors with opportunities to put some money to work in a loan, and found that it was a really cool space that had a lot of room to grow, and was able to really kind of cut my teeth helping build, that business and grow it to a, fairly substantial size. And then, found Renovo, was introduced to the CEO of Renovo from a mutual investor friend. And, I met Kevin Werner, who's our founder and CEO, and just really felt like I just really resonated with the way he approached the business and just his general demeanor. And so we just stayed connected, and an opportunity presented itself when those guys were ready to really step on the growth, gas pedal, and was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time to join this team. I think we've just got an awesome foundation of a business, a great culture, and we've grown a ton since then. So excited to be here and take, what I believe is a really special brand and really kind of build it into a big national powerhouse. It's a lot of fun and very rewarding.
Love it, man. Yeah. Hopefully next time we hang out at Collective Genius, hopefully I can nudge you to play basketball on my team. I know.
Man, I would love to. I tweaked my knee a little bit, and so I haven't been playing as much, but we'll make it happen before too long. That's for sure.
There we go. Nice. I'll get some rebounds and dish it out to you.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. Perfect teammate.
Good stuff, man. So love to hear about your background. Yeah, I know you James, you mentioned like your guys' team culture and really how you approach, I guess, lending in general. Can you maybe touch on that a little bit more for our audience on like what makes you guys different, really your philosophy on how you work with investors? Like, I'd love to hear more about how you guys really approach that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the lending business is there's a lot of great lenders out there, right? And we're in an age now where there's a lot more capital dedicated to this space than there used to be. So, there's just a lot of great, competitors, but just participants in this space. I think what we try to do that might be slightly different is we really take a very local approach to lending. So, in the landscape of private lending, you typically have like the local folks that are maybe, have their own money, or maybe a little bit of friends and family, and they're hyper local. They kind of make loans to people that they know, and they know the market where they lend extremely well, so they can make quick decisions, and those can be really good assets as far as relationships for local investors. And then you kind of have the other side of the spectrum, which is like the big national shops that, have the best pricing, probably have quite a bit of product variety. They're not just doing one kind of fix and flip type loan. They've got lots of different product for different situations. But those tend to be run in a more centralized way. So you might have, loan officers that are sitting in a city, but they might be calling into lots of different markets, and so the limitation there is like they're not as dialed into a particular geography, and the loan officer may or may not have a lot of expertise in that market, which might make them, they still might be a great fit, but it may make it a little bit more challenging. We try to kind of combine those things, right? So we have the big national resources, institutional resources, lots of product, very competitive pricing and terms, but we deliver that in a way that hopefully feels a lot more like the local guy. And our loan officers, they live in a market where they lend, and they really only lend in that market. So they just are able to go really deep. Their expertise on, all the things that are maybe a little different market to market, like the different municipalities, even within the same state, right? Raleigh, North Carolina, and Charlotte, North Carolina, like different municipalities, different permitting process, different zoning. So just understanding those little nuances that our investor deals with on a day-to-day basis, hopefully it helps us be a better partner to them, because in the end, we really want to build a long-term relationship with our clients. It's all about the long game. And you and I were talking about that a little bit before we jumped on here, but that's really the way we think about it. We want to build these local markets, and we want those businesses to grow, and eventually we want to become number one in every city that we're in. So we have a pretty big footprint, but I wouldn't call us necessarily national, because we really focus on the markets where we have those local offices. And there's about 24, 25 cities today that we've got boots on the ground loan officers, and teams that support them. And my job is to find the best lending talent, put them in those seats, and then help those folks build an amazing local business. And so I think that's slightly different than what you might find. Although in the end, pricing terms across lenders, it's pretty similar a lot of the time. I think if we can be competitive, we don't always have to be the lowest. Sometimes we are, but it's not necessary. If we can bring additional value in the form of relationships and local expertise and a network of folks that are in that market that might help our client in other ways that maybe that we can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love the vision and ambition for you guys too on how you're trying to tackle this. With a, like you said, a localized approach, but eventually expand to service really every market. So, yeah,
Yeah.
on my end as well, I was curious. I know one thing I love, again, like how you guys approach it's that relationship building piece. It's getting out there and really playing the long game. On the other side of the table, we have a lot of investors watching this that are, they might be either newer or scaling, and maybe haven't really approached the funding side of the deal yet, or are looking to continue to get better at that. Can you maybe speak to them on some of the keys of how to most successfully work with a lender, and when they should be reaching out, like when should they start building those relationships? Like any advice on that front would be super helpful for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, real estate, as in life, it's all about relationships, right? And so I would say you can never start building relationships with multiple sources of funding for your business. You can't build those too early. Like, I think it's just, even if you're at a point where you're not quite ready to take on a lending relationship, I think just starting that process, the way we think about it is we want to build long-term partnerships with our clients. And so that doesn't have, when we speak with a customer or a potential customer, like, oftentimes there's not a deal right now. and but we want to get to know each other. The more we can understand about your business, and the more you understand about how we work, the more smoothly it's going to go when we finally get to an opportunity. So I know we look at it that way. I'm sure many of our fellow lenders in the space do as well. So I would say number one, like, just start meeting as many folks in the space that you can. And I know I mentioned, kind of the spectrum of lenders that are out there. I think you might need relationships that in each one of those kind of categories, right? The hyper local guy that can fund your deal really fast, and doesn't really require as much paperwork. He might be more expensive, but you might have an opportunity that has a short fuse, and you've got to jump on it. Sometimes that can be tough for a larger, more institutional shop. A 1 day close is tough to hit when you're using institutional capital. So having relationships there, is really important when you're getting going. And then as you build your experience and your track record, I think, having the ability to move into more sophisticated types of capital relationships is really important. But again, starting those conversations and getting to know those folks early, I think you can't go wrong. And again, as you scale your business, I think it's important that at every kind of in every facet of the business, that you have multiple relationships that you can lean on if you need them. And that goes for really everything. You don't have just one roofing guy. Usually you got a couple just in case, right? And I think that's an important thing to think about on the lending side as well. And there are certain things that we do really well, and there's certain things that maybe we wouldn't be able to do. And so having a kind of a small team of different lending options is really important if you're going to grow your business safely, right? And not be overly reliant. So I definitely think that's one. And in terms of working with a lender, just knowing your numbers, knowing the market, being able to defend your deal. Why is this a good deal? I know the way we have those conversations is, we've got a fair amount of flexibility in what we can and can't do. We have a lot of discretion um, over the types of loans that we fund, and understanding the story, understanding the customer's background and ability to execute that project. It really helps us, do deals that might be a little bit outside the box for some, and but being able to articulate that as the investor and the sponsor of the project, why is this a good deal? That's super important, because you need to demonstrate that what you're doing and what you're getting into. And that makes a lender like us feel a lot more comfortable that you're going to actually be able to execute that project and move on. And that's we want to start those relationships one deal at a time, and hopefully we can help our investor clients grow their business. And in so doing, we grow alongside you, and that's really what it's all about for us. But hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to get even more in the weeds there, especially for like the newer investor who maybe doesn't have as much experience they can lean on just to point to and say, here are all the deals I've done. Do you have any advice there on like how they can go about really presenting that deal, really defending that deal, really talking about why it is a good deal? Like any of those key elements, I think are would give our audience more confidence too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you know I think that there's a lot that goes into building a career as an investor, and whether it's flipping or ground up or whatever, um, building a rental portfolio, right? That you have to start somewhere, and oftentimes the best way to start is by finding somebody who has capital and wants to be in the investment business, but doesn't really have the time or the expertise to actually go and do it themselves.
Mhm.
And if you can be the person that finds the deal and is willing to execute the deal, um, there are lots of people with cash on the sidelines that would love to put some of that into real estate, and partnering with those folks. Even if you have to do a 50-50 split on the deal at the end of the day, it helps you build the experience and the track record that an investor, or sorry, a lender like ourselves is going to look for. Now there are lenders that are more regional, or even some national lenders that work with brand new investors who've never done a deal. I think
Mhm.
doing your research, seeking those folks out. But oftentimes I find that the progression is usually, hey, I've got an uncle or my father-in-law or whatever has some money. We're going to partner together. We're going to do a few deals. You get two or three of those done. You've got a nice little track record that you can then take to a lender that would help you get a loan that is going to be probably a lot cheaper and is going to be a more consistent source of funding as you grow your business, if that's the intent, right? Some people want to do one deal a year and that's it, and that's totally fine. But if you really want to grow, you do need some partnerships and relationships that are, scalable, right?
Mhm.
And oftentimes the country club money is not all that scalable, right? But you gotta start somewhere. I think in terms of presenting the deal, just knowing your numbers, right? Like having, hey, I want to build this project. Well, what is it going to cost me? Like making sure that you've got multiple bids on different things so that you've got a really tight set of numbers that you feel confident in. um, Being able to really articulate the need in that particular market and neighborhood. Hey, what do I think I'm going to sell this at? It shouldn't be a shot in the dark, right? Should be some research behind that. Why do you think it's going to sell for that? Well, because I looked at blah blah blah. Like, the Zestimate is not a good answer. Sometimes that can be great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's one piece of information. I think you gotta
Mhm.
I think for to get a lender really comfortable, you have to really establish it. You've done the work to figure out that this is a project that you should do, and then understanding your ability to execute the deal. Right, like these projects take capital to do. Right, usually most lenders, sometimes the local guys are a little different, but most lenders like ourselves, like we're going to require that you spend your money to go and do the next phase of construction. And then when that's done, we will reimburse you for that. But we're typically, we're going to require that you do that work first before we give you the money. And that's the way lending works at an institutional level. You've got to have the wherewithal to be able to float those projects for, every phase. With us, you can take as many draws as you want. So, you want to do $5,000 worth of work and, do a draw, and that's totally fine. But understanding how much, room you've got to run is super important as well. And I think just being able to demonstrate a lot of knowledge around your project and how you're going to get it done. You want to be able to answer those questions when they come up, and do so confidently. So, other than that, listen, I think, we work with all manner of investors. There's the guy that lives in his pickup truck and actually swings the hammer. And then there's folks that, have a high rise office, an office in a high rise, and a CFO, and, a little bit more sophisticated. We're used to working with all of those people. So, it's not like you have to, come in and wear a suit and tie and, try to be something you're not. We're comfortable with all kinds of investors, but just the confidence that we can get from somebody, and the amount of work that is, that they've put in, that's usually what we're looking for to start off a relationship.
Love that. Yeah. I mean, and for sure, the mindset, like you said, of hey, there's a lot of people out there that may have money on the sidelines to be able to fundraise it first, and you being able to come to them. That's what Deal Machine's all about. Our goal is to help you find those great deals, help you analyze those deals. We've got MLS comps in there to help you really put in the work and understand what the value of that property is, and then come in and go get some deals under your belt before you'd approach a Renovo. When they are ready to approach you guys, like, do you have any advice on scaling and any like common mistakes you see there? Like, I'd love for our audience to be able to think ahead a little bit there on them, especially if you have that ambition to build out a team, to be doing more like, what do you have anything that they can be thinking about now that would help set them up for success down the road?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, I think when it comes to scaling a business, any business, I think you really need to be thoughtful about, number one, what is it that you're trying to build? I think one of the first questions we ask our, prospective clients in a discovery call or an initial meeting is, you know, what do you want to do here? Like, what's the goal? And some folks, they're not really thinking that far ahead. It's like, I want to do this deal, and then I hopefully want to do another deal. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but like if you really want to scale a business, I think understanding what it is you want to scale and why is it that you want to do that. More is not always better. I mean, we know each other through the Collective Genius
Mhm.
Mastermind, and it sounds like you might talk about that on the show.
Yeah.
So maybe people know what that is, but there's a lot of highly successful investors in that group, and those people even fall into that comparison mindset where it's like, oh man, this person's doing that much. I'm not, but that doesn't always matter, right? Like, what are you building for yourself? And I think um, understanding that part is important, and then thinking through like how much, how many deals can I realistically take on at any one time for my infrastructure, right? Like if it's just you, doing 4 deals at once might be a little too much to ask. That's a lot, and you don't. I think there's a lot of investors that get themselves in trouble because they take on too much at one time. And so I think really understanding like how many projects can I feasibly manage at a given time. And if I want to do more, if my business plan calls for, hey, I want to do 5 deals this year, or whatever the number is, if it's not something that you can handle yourself, start building an organization that can manage that, right? Have a
Mhm.
project manager, have a, whatever it is, but like being thoughtful about how you build your team, respective of what you're trying to do, I think is really important. And investors and lenders like ourselves, like we're we're here to help you scale. Like that's what we're all about. We are not a transactional lender. Now there are some lenders out there that are very transactional, and that's not to say that that's a bad thing at all. But our goal is to sit down with an investor and say, hey, what do you want to build, and how can we help you get there? And that then it becomes more of a collaboration and a partnership. And I think
Mhm.
that's what we look for. And so understanding that stuff, being able to answer those questions, and if you don't know, that's okay. But talking through that and being open to kind of working through that process, I think is really helpful. But at the end of the day, just understanding what you can take on and not getting yourself overloaded where you can't really do anything well. 5 projects, if you can't get one of them done really well, then you shouldn't be doing all 5, right? And just being thoughtful about that, because I think that's a mistake that a lot of investors make. They see opportunity and they take on too much, and then it hurts their ability to actually get anything done.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been fantastic, man. I really appreciate both the roadmap for the scaling investor, the more, the people hitting that stage, and then also, especially the newbies, like giving people the confidence, because I know this is a subject that can be intimidating for people, like, going to the financing and funding side of deals is something that I think our audience might be, can be greener on. But I love that you guys are here to really help, to really think long term, to really build a relationship with and start early, even if you don't have a deal this second, to be able to go out there and fund. So appreciate you being a resource for our entire community, man. And what's the best way for people to connect with you? I know you guys are in some of the markets that a lot of our customers are, but maybe talk through like what's the best way to get in touch with our audience.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, our website, renovofinancial.com, that's a great place to go and get resources in terms of where are we lending. And, we're in a lot of cities. So odds are, we're probably close. And if we're not in that city, sometimes we do, expand into, markets that are near where we're at. But
Mhm.
definitely that's a good spot. You can reach out to us there to set a meeting and chat with somebody to start the process. I can be found on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and so if anybody's looking to connect with me directly, I don't lend money, but I can definitely introduce you and make those connections to our local teams that can kind of work on that stuff for you. So that's probably the best way. And we'd love to hear from you. I think, you mentioned a second ago, like this can be an intimidating kind of topic for investors that are on the greener side, and just starting to build, their career. You just you cannot have too many relationships, and especially local ones. And our teams are set up to be a great resource for our clients in terms of making connections. And if we can't be the right fit for the deal or whatever, we will always make introductions to somebody who can help. That's what we're all about is, we want to help our clients succeed, whether that's with us or someone else. But, definitely I wanted to speak to that. Like, don't hesitate. And there's no reason to feel intimidated. It's a very common thing. I totally get it, but it's a vital piece of this whole thing. And, we and everyone else in the space, I'm sure would love to start that process of getting to know one another. And when the
Mhm.
timing works, the timing works. So happy to be
Yep.
that resource for you guys.
Yeah, I've seen how you guys have been such a helpful member in Collective Genius, which we have had on quite a few people on our podcast as well, who are members of that group, and how you guys are really that go giver mindset and really help, again, like be a resource for them in general, whether you can help people now or down the road. So, really appreciate you reiterating that. I'll make sure we link to that in our YouTube description, all the resources you just mentioned there. And we've got some free resources of our own there. But James, really appreciate you coming on and enjoyed the conversation, man.
Oh man, I'm really grateful to be able to come on and chat with you. It's been a lot of fun, and look forward to seeing you again here real soon at the next event. But in the meantime, please, anybody, reach out. I'm happy to connect.
Absolutely. And to everyone watching over here, this is again Matt Kamp with Deal Machine, and happy deal finding.